Welcome to joining me and delving into the intriguing world of manifestation and conspirituality / conspiracy theories. We will look at these topics through the lens of religion psychology, and we will define both manifestation and conspirituality, as well as look at the overlap between them and look at the pros and the cons of each of them. And Grace really want to join us, so do you want to jump up? Yes, say hello. Are you a manifester, Grace? Did I manifest you into existence or onto my path? Who knows? Well, this is what we'll explore today. And I want to start off with a little verse actually from scripture that says, "Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door shall be opened to you." It says in Matthew 7:7. So this verse actually emphasizes the active pursuit of understanding and connecting with the divine, with the beyond, with God. And so in exploration or in exploring the themes of manifestation and conspirituality, it really encourages you to engage with your spiritual journey, right? Seeking truth and meaning in your life and the world around you. And I think that we want to remain as neutral as possible here. At least I do, in the way that I view manifestation, the way that I view conspirituality, because the thing here is that there might be an overlap between the religious world and the spiritual world here. And we want to be careful not to put an equal sign between them. We also want to be careful not to discriminate either belief system and whatnot. But this is more of the spiritual world we're entering here, and not so much the religious world. Okay? So what is manifestation, first and foremost? To define manifestation, I'd say that it is the belief that individuals in and of themselves, that you and I can attract desired outcomes, such as wealth, such as success or happiness or health. Put in the blank, whatever you want. Essentially, just think of it and it can be yours. Ask and it will be given to you. And so typically, those who are manifesting, they're doing it through the belief in or through the means of focused, positive thinking, through visualization, and through symbolic actions. And it is often framed as aligning one's subconscious mind and rewiring one's subconscious mind to be able to have a certain vibration, a certain frequency, hold a certain kind of thought or even state of surrender to be able to attract that which you have as a desire. And you're basically then aligning your subconscious, your thoughts and emotions with so-called universal laws. And those laws, there are many. If you could look them up, you'd find many universal laws in the manifestation world. And the reason you then align yourself with these universal laws is with the intention to magnetically draw to you desired spiritual outcomes, okay? Such as, well, you can literally fill in the blank, whatever it is you want. So manifestation is rooted actually in the spiritual movement or ideologies such as the New Thought movement or New Age spirituality, but it is not a new thing to believe this. Even if you look in scripture, you will find plenty of evidence there, plenty of verses there that's warning about something called witchcraft in the Bible. And many would say that manifestation is along the line of witchcraft. If you dig in, you can dig in and you'll find a lot that's said about that, and how very often it's not necessarily something that's rooted in God, but that's rooted in wanting to be your own God and manifesting for your own good. Okay, so there's something to be said there. I just want to state that up front. Okay, so with this being said, let's just dive into more of manifestation here. So the religious psychology perspective on manifestation includes the focus on, again, magical thinking and subconscious processes. It includes also, I would say, well, we could look at the roots in spiritual and cultural movements as well, and psychological benefits and risks we'll look at too, and we'll look at manifestation as a contemporary religious phenomenon and connection to the main character syndrome. So with magical thinking and it being kind of like aligned to subconscious processes, and that is what you're really working with in this field, is that manifestation aligns again with magical thinking, where thoughts and emotions are believed to directly influence external outcomes. So you'd have a thought and you believe that it will have an influence on your life and the people around you and the world at large. So this resonates with cognitive models that highlight the power of belief systems in shaping perception and behavior. And from a psychological perspective, the subconscious mind plays a critical role, all right? So it is said to interpret visualizations and affirmations as real, reinforcing confidence and motivation. And so in this industry, it's highly, encouraged to keep on finding yourself affirmations to affirm over yourself. So different statements that typically start with the statement I and fill in the blank. I am beautiful. I am rich. I, a wife. Something along those lines where you then state it in present tense so that your mind doesn't, think of it as a future event, because the subconscious mind lives in the present and it works in the present, and it kind of will only take in information that's in the present. And so that is why it's encouraged in this realm and in this world to keep saying those things over yourself and to yourself. And if you draw the parallel to scripture here, God talks about, or God is described as the great I am. That, in scripture, you'll have this story with the bush and the fire in the bush, and how God said just that I am. And so I think that is where the manifestation thought, it plays on that. It plays on that fact that, if it is so then that is God, and we want to work with the universe and all these things, then we gotta say that I am, and it shall be. The only thing is that it's rooted in self, and we'll get to that, what one want to do for oneself. And then just an example here of this would be, for instance, the law of attraction. So the law of attraction encourages you to think and act like things have already happened, and that you wouldn't think of the possibilities of it not happening, but you would already perceive it as done, as finished. And so you're then aligning your thoughts, your behavior, the way that you do things, the way that you say things, everything about you to match with what you want. And the idea is then that you would then be more likely to attract that experience into being. So what are the roots then of this movement and this kind of law of attraction idea and of manifestation? Manifestation has deep spiritual roots in, in ancient times, but also maybe now, especially recently, in New Thought, New Age spirituality, and prosperity gospel. And so both of them emphasize the individual's capacity to shape reality through their belief and through their faith. That you would be able to alter reality, so to speak, through your thoughts. And this belief system really appeals particularly to, according to research, marginalized groups, which could be such groups as ethnic minorities. You could also see that it's prevalent in and among those who are in a vulnerable position in life, let's say, who may view manifestation then as a tool to get out of their situation and to achieve aspirations in the face of the barrier or systematic barriers that might be confronting them, let's say. The psychological benefits and the risks of the manifestation kind of realm of things would be, firstly, with regard to the benefits, that it could increase optimism, persistence, and also a sense of personal power. That if you'd gone along in your life and thought to yourself that I don't amount to anything, I can't do anything, I won't be able to shape the outcome of my life at all, I don't have any say in anything, then this kind of emphasis on personal power that is very prevalent in the personal development industry, that everything's really built on, I think can really help, boost you to get going in life. And then another benefit would be that it encourages positive reframing of failures. So contributing to resilience and psychological well-being overall in a way too. So what I mean by reframing, and that is actually a tool that one will use also in therapy, most likely, is looking at your language. This is very typical also in something called neuro-linguistic programming, which I'm certified in and have gone through several trainings on, where the neurons of yours are shaped by the language and the linguistics you have, and that programs you. That's why it's called neuro-linguistic programming. And so if you then if you give something in your life, an experience, whether it's considered a good or a bad experience, you put a frame on it through your language, the way you talk about that experience. It shapes the way that it has you feel, it has you respond to the situation. The risks with the manifestation industry or being involved in manifestation one way or another is that overconfidence can lead to financial risks, such as investing in unrealistic ventures or pursuing something called get-rich-quick schemes. And manifestors are also prone, as research shows, to ignore practical planning and may actually experience financial instability. And that could also be why you see in the New Age spirituality circles, a lot of the people there are highly actually traumatized individuals that are looking for a way to manifest their dream life because they're so unstable in so many areas of their lives that they do anything in their power to and really want to control their mindset to be able to change their reality. Now, ironically enough though, a lot of research here shows that if you have this kind of overconfidence, it can lead to financial despair, or even worse financial outcomes than you begun with, too, because of the addiction that it kind of creates too, because of the dopamine release that you get every time that you perceive that your life is getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, or that you're taking another course and another course and another course, and you read another book on manifestation and another one on manifestation. And so you get these dopamine hits that keep you in the loop of these financial investments that you do into manifestation, into that industry, manifestation industry. So we have now covered the risks, right, and the benefits of it. Now let's look at manifestation as a contemporary religious phenomenon. So manifestation reflects a post-secular shift, all right, where spirituality and secular kind of self-help emerge. So after the secular world has kind of, developed itself and people start to realize that there's more to life than just the material, now this is where the spiritual life is, and the emphasis on self-help is starting to emerge, because people are longing for something deeper, something more. And so its widespread appeal comes from the blending, actually, of metaphysical concepts and also with psychological focus on self-improvement. So there's an overlap there between self-improvement and on metaphysical concepts and different laws and whatnot. The manifestation scale also highlights two dimensions here: personal power and cosmic collaboration. So you are essentially believing that you have a personal power in yourself, where you, with your individual confidence, can achieve goals through mere effort and through self-belief. So through your belief, through your personal power, you can achieve something. You can manifest something into existence. Then you have cosmic collaboration as well that it's built on. And what does this mean? Well, it means that you are collaborating with a cosmic power that a lot of people in the new age or in the manifestation, kind of with a manifestation belief, tend to believe in. And so a cosmic collaboration is where you have a spiritual belief in working with the universe or the higher power to manifest certain outcomes or desires. There is something to really keep in mind here, and that is the main character syndrome, okay? So manifestors often adopt what is called the main character syndrome. And it's a kind of thing that you just do without even being aware of it, okay? This might not be the intention that you have, but it ends up being the result of such a way of living. So you then adopt a narrative where you are the main character in your life. And that reinforces a self-centric worldview that then resonates with life design philosophies, that you can design your life, and also a cultural emphasis on personal empowerment. So you're then putting yourself at the center of your life. Very often this is a response to trauma, where you have been put last in your life, or where you have felt like a victim in your life. And so there's a huge emphasis in this world to not be the victim, but to be the victor, to be the one that is having victory in your life. And so it's an emphasis on taking back the power that you lost or that someone has taken away from you, and that you can heal yourself, that you can change yourself, that you can alter your reality. So that is what it is actually based on, and you will see if you're involved in this, or if you have been involved in this, or if you know someone that's involved in this, that the focus is very much on self first. And typically what can happen then is that there will develop this kind of self-glorification at some point, one way or another, which can be seen also externally to some degree, one way or another, where there's an emphasis on the aesthetics, on literally like showing off how rich you are and how much you have manifested in your life, how healthy you are and how well off you are. And so there's not so much emphasis on the contribution or the self-sacrifice or anything like that, because of the main character syndrome, really. So the key insight here is that manifestation can be seen as a modern expression of religious psychology, actually. Combining magical thinking then with subconscious processes to create meaning and to motivate action. And while it can create a sense of agency that you can choose and you can change your life, and it can also promote optimism, it also risks financial and emotional harm when beliefs overtake the practical reality of yours, and or if the things that you are believing in and that you want to manifest don't come to fruition, or if they do come to fruition but it still leaves you empty. That is when you can take a toll on this belief system, and by leading your life from the place of manifestation. Okay, so there are definitely risks there, and there are definitely pitfalls. There's also the pros and the cons here. There's also the pros here, I mean. So you want to be mindful about the way that you engage with manifestation content and the manifestation industry and the manifestation coaches, and use proper discernment when or if you ever engage in such a thing. But there might be something to be said here about the importance, obviously, of understanding that yes, your thoughts do have power. Maybe that is what all of the different religions and the spiritual disciplines can say that they have in common, that we all acknowledge that our thoughts do hold power. And from scripture, and in scripture, it says that we are to take our thoughts captive. So let's now move on to talking about conspirituality and how this is actually a fusion between New Age, or you might call it alternative spirituality, and also conspiracy theories. So conspiritual thinking is a set of pessimistic beliefs that powerful elites are in control and are in power over these worldly events of ours. And New Age spirituality hold optimistic ideals of awakening, of holistic well-being, and of a love-driven change. So there's this interesting paradox here, but there's an overlap between them, interestingly enough, between the pessimistic beliefs, but also holding optimistic ideals. And so let's have a look at this now. We'll go on looking at the theoretical foundation for conspirituality, and we'll look at the key features. We'll look at the psychological and social dynamics and the anti-establishment and political resistance here that plays into this, as well as religious and spiritual roots of conspirituality, as well as aesthetic and sensory dimensions and challenges and contradictions. So we'll completely cover this topic, and I hope that it can bring some renewed or new perspectives. So let's see here to begin with the theoretical foundation. So the theoretical foundation consists of the post-secularism that we're in, plus a culture. So with regard to post-secularism, conspirituality emerges in post-secular societies. such as literally like a lot of different places in the world, okay, where traditional religious frameworks decline. So in countries that religion is not as prevalent, this is typically something that blossoms up, this conspirituality. And alternative spiritualities gain traction in these places as well. And so that is where the conspiracy theories typically too simultaneously start developing. And it reflects a search actually for meaning in a world perceived as chaotic, disruptive, and deceptive, where there's lack of trust and or there's just misconceptions at play. And there's not communication, but rather cancel culture that's running the show. Also, a culture is something that plays into this. So the occulture is something that exists within conspirituality. And a culture is a space where what's called as esotericism, I think it's called that, esotericism, yeah, paranormal beliefs and environmentalism blend. So these blend together, and that is the culture. And that creates a spiritual worldview that then challenges a mainstream narrative. So you have the environmentalism and the vegans and all of that, and a paranormal beliefs up in all of that as well, plus the esoteric kind of worldview. That is the occulture, and conspiracy theories typically evolve or are birthed through the occulture, okay, in the post-secular world. The key features here of this kind of conspirituality is the triple awakening, for instance, in Norwegian conspirituality. And just to give an example there of the triple awakening, it's kind of an emphasis here on seeking a spiritual awakening, seeking to be able to ascend and to live in a 5D state of mind, to ascend from the 3D state of mind to the 4D state of mind to the 5D state of mind. And there's also an emphasis on extraterritorial involvement. So what I mean there is like there's talk about UFOs and our connection and relationship to otherworldly, dimensions, and also UFOs like out there in the universe, communication with those. There's conspiracy theories also about, like I mentioned, secret world societies or secret elite control, such as the New World Order. And that is kind of something that's talked about a lot in the conspiracy world. And these elements create a cohesive worldview then, where spiritual enlightenment is then linked to uncovering hidden truths about the world and about society and about the universe. And typically you have a good heart when you're getting involved in this, and you literally just want the best for people around you and for the world at large, and you're just noticing that something is up here, something is wrong, something is not right, something is not adding up. And this also happens when the society just like falls apart to some degree or another, where questions are being raised, and that might be where this holds some potential to it and some validness to it and some benefit to it. Then you have the psychological and social dynamics that you want to take into consideration here too with the conspiracy theories. So there's an epistemic rebellion going on here, a community of sense and paradoxical themes that I want to cover. So when it comes to the epistemic rebellion, you can see this play out in the conspiracy theory societies, let's say, or kind of groups. Conspiratorial beliefs challenge mainstream epistemology, So favoring intuitive, felt knowledge over empirical evidence. And there's these statements that go around like, I just know it because I feel it within. I know that this is true because I feel that it is true. Or it reflects a reliance on emotional resonance from within as validation. So you're validating what you're kind of researching and everything and looking at through your emotions. And then 2, I want to touch on the way that this aligns with magical ways of knowing, right? Clear cognizance, etc., where subjective experiences are prioritized over objective facts. But there might be, if you look at a lot of the facts that are being presented by the conspiracy theories, sometimes these conspiracy theories are exactly on point and are just not being shown in the media that most people consume. So there is something here, to be aware of too, to not just blatantly turn the blind eye to it and just label it conspiracy theory. I also want to touch on community of sense. So conspirituality fosters communities of sense. What is that? That's where members bond over a shared dissent from mainstream institutions like governments and big pharma, and where people bond over resentment towards these institutions. And these communities provide typically emotional and epistemic validation and reinforcing belief systems as well. The paradoxical themes here within the conspiracy theory world, I would say, is that conspirituality blends oppositional conspiracy thinking, so anti-globalization, with new age ideals that's rooted in unity and love, and creating contradictions then between exclusivity and inclusivity. It's kind of a paradox where it's like, we're gonna just experience love and light over here, but we're also going to, want to exclude certain things and certain people, because of the way that they do X, Y, and Z, etc. And we want to just be over here in our little group and to ascend together to the 5D dimension, but those over there, we're just gonna be over here because this is where we're ascending. So we need to detach ourselves from low vibrational people and beings. That is typically how it is thought of and framed, the way that I have perceived it and the way that I look at it now in retrospect of having had a step or a foot in that world. Also, let's look at anti-establishment and political resistance. So conspirituality expresses political dissent, and it's framing mainstream institutions as corrupt and as suppressive. So you're basically considering yourself almost like a victim to the government. And so it critiques globalism, capitalism, and organized religion. It doesn't want anything to do with that. And it views all of that as the elite trying to take control over you. And it also promotes spiritual sovereignty, where you have the power. You are the spiritual one. You are the one. And it emphasizes personal freedom and resistance to perceived manipulation. So that could be, for instance, the vaccine skepticism that's been going around. I don't even know if you can say that word without being canceled on here, but literally that is a way that the spiritual sovereignty has played out. And it's also caused a lot of discrimination between people, and also cancel culture in around talking about those types of things. I do want to say that I believe anyone can do whatever they want with their body, but I do think that there are information that has been hidden and that's not been in the public. And you might consider that a conspiracy theory, but can you raise a question these days, right, without being labeled a conspiracy theorist? That is something to discuss here. Let's also talk about the religious and spiritual roots here. So, neo-millennialism and holistic spirituality. These two are kind of the roots of conspirituality. So neo-millennialism, what's that? Well, conspirituality mirrors religious millennialism. It's predicting societal collapse followed by a spiritual and social transformation. So in conspirituality, you're predicting that this world is going to fall and we need to recreate it. And so it combines esoteric narratives with apocalyptic imagery. And so it's framing the current era that we are currently living in as a precursor of a global awakening. It kind of, sounds a little bit doom and gloomy. And it's interesting how it holds a little bit of parallel to some of the religious themes as well, of the death and resurrection, so to speak, of the world, and that there's heaven and there's hell, so to speak, and that the new world is to come with Christ coming, in a sense, right? And so there's some overlaps here, interestingly enough. And then though, there's the holistic spirituality too. So the New Age emphasis on oneness and love integrates with conspiritual beliefs, reframing thus opposition as a necessary path to enlightenment. So in New Age, it's all about the one, like we're one, and the love that we hold and the love that we cast and the love that we shine, that has an impact on people around us, and it integrates again with conspiritual beliefs, and it reframes opposition as a necessary path to enlightenment. Isn't that fascinating? Also, aesthetic and sensory dimensions we could touch on here. So I don't know if you noticed this, but conspiritual beliefs are experienced aesthetically and emotionally, not purely rationally, actually. So the participatory knowing reflects an alternative epistemology that values resonance and intuition over factual validation. And so it values the feeling and the aesthetic of things more than the thought and rational mind and factual validation. An example here would be how Italian pagan communities actually validate conspiracy beliefs through collective sensory experiences, such as rituals, rather than empirical evidence. So what are the challenges here, and what are the contradictions here? There's this tension between love and between opposition. And so conspirituality seeks a paradigm of love and of unity, but it thrives on adversarial kind of narratives that divide the awakened from the manipulated. And so if you're in this world, you want to be careful not to fall into that mindset of, I am awakened and that person over there is not awakened. I am awakened, but that person is manipulated. I'm awakened, but that person is frankly stupid, right? If that is the kind of mindset we hold, it's contradictory to the light and love thought, let's say. The key takeaway here is that conspirituality as a religious psychology phenomenon, I would say, reflects a quest for meaning through spiritual or alternative epistemologies that kind of blend spiritual awakening with resistance to mainstream systems. And it highlights also how marginalized worldviews can actually offer coherence and community, even as they challenge societal norms. And that is why a lot of people tend to leave this typical way of living to go out into these different New Age communities because they find a sense of belonging there in shared perspectives on alternative epistemologies and on the resistance to mainstream systems, which you then would perceive as something wrong is going on here. And so we need to recreate it, and thus we're not going to be part of this society anymore. But it could also happen so that you'd stay in where you are, but you'd go online and rather be in online communities that have the same shared belief systems. So now we have discussed and talked about manifestation and conspirituality. As we now wrap up this discussion, you are welcome to share your beliefs on this and the narratives that you have on it. And if you have some experience with manifestation, if you have experience from having held or holding conspirituality beliefs, and if you have recognized any shifts in your life since you've been in that, or if you are currently in it and are seeing any results from it, I also want to invite you, if you have left the manifestation kind of world and the conspirituality world, what made you leave that paradigm and worldview and those kinds of communities? I'd love to hear from you as well. So with that, I want to invite you for further just contemplation and connection and contribution inside of the garden, where we talk about these things, where it's not something to be hushed on, but rather to be brought up to the surface, to be talked about, and to be discussed. In that way, I just want to end off here by just saying thank you for having been here with me, and feel free to also subscribe to the Bloom Beyond YouTube channel for more on such topics as this one. With that, I just want to say thank you.